And crisis unfolds. Yesterday's events at the Library of Congress adding to an already tense week. Currently, the United States is struggling to pick up the pace of the evacuations at the airport in Kabul. The effort is being hampered by several obstacles ranging from armed and Taliban checkpoints to paperwork problems. National Security Advisor Jason Beardsley joins us this morning to share some perspective. Good morning to you, Jason.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you making time for us this morning. So let's start with some of the issues with what's going on over there. We've seen the video, people trying to get on these planes. It seems to be kind of chaotic as far as trying to get Americans and Afghans out of the country. So let's start with what you see as the number one problem here with trying to get people out.
Okay, number one problem. This is chaos. We have to get rid of the notion that things are all right on the ground or that the government is in control. We seeded that. The entire weekend was an unraveling, chaotic train wreck. We've known this was coming for a long time, so the excuse is we've got to get past that and just look at what's happening on the ground. Where I'm most discouraged is that our British allies and others are making efforts for their soldiers to go out and retrieve their citizens, bring them back to the airport for safe passage out. Our military, they have a mission. They've been clear about that. We've heard this from spokespersons that they are only going to be defending the airport. So you have a flood of people, you have a lot of refugees and chaos in the city with a lot of Americans hunkering down in an uneasy state, waiting for some sort of guidance or some sort of direction. And unfortunately, I'm here to, I don't think they're going to get that anytime soon.
What's the biggest misstep here from an American perspective? Because they said they were going to pull out, but what do you think is the biggest problem here with how they handle this particular withdrawal?
Unfortunately, that's easy to see. The biggest misstep was sequencing. We left the airports in Bagram and Kabul. We took our military presence down. We left out of the country with military assets that we would need to protect this evacuation, so that we reduced our military before actually moving our diplomats out of the country. That was the biggest problem, and that's why we're here today.
Now, I'm not a military expert. I'm not a security expert. You are. And a lot of the conversation is, after 20 years or so, what would have been a good time to pull out? How should this pullout have taken place after 20 years? Because, you know, should it have been done in year 5, year 10, year 15, year 20? How should it have been handled? And what difference would it have made if it happened, you know, 5 years ago, this year, or 5 years from now?
Great question. First of all, any time the pullout would have been executed, it should have been done in a sort of the formal fashion the military knows. I've practiced this, special operations do this, Marines do this. It's called non-combatant evacuation, where embassies are moved out of a country, or the diplomatic mission is now safely moved out of a country. That's a military operation. We know it well. That should have been incorporated here. And for some reason, they blew right past that, maybe assuming that the Taliban would not collapse the city this quickly. We could have pulled out at any time in the last 20 years, but I'll remind our audience that the Special Investigator General for Afghanistan Reconstruction writes a report every year, and really quarterly, to tell the American public. It's a public document. It's called the SIGAR, S-I-G-A-R, and that details in very gory fashion all the misspending and all the abuses we've seen for the last two decades. It's laid out. It's for the American public. The reason they write that is so that we could have avoided what we're in right now, which is the mess that this administration has left us in.
Now, real quick, before we go, Jason, now you've talked about some misspending and a lot of missteps on the Afghan part. That's correct? That's what you said, right? I was making sure I heard that right.
I'm talking about on our part.
On the Afghan part. So yeah, having said that, the critics are going to say, well, we were there for 20 years, and then you have this going on. So how is this an American problem? That's what the critics are saying, not me.
Yeah, right. In fact, what we've done in there is our own misspending. We haven't been disciplined about what we're doing. We did not lay out a clear objective for the military. So we did our part. The Afghans also were participants in this. Our soldiers came back from Afghanistan, Marines, and they've told us for 20 years, they're not trained, they're not ready. They won't be able to handle this on their own. So let's give credit to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And by the way, when we see our places right now, Americans on the ground, we need to pray for them, make sure that by some means they are safely brought out of the country. That is doable, but it's private citizens, it's people that have worked with them in the past. So hopefully we'll see some better results this weekend, but I'm not sure.
All right. National security expert Jason Beardsley, appreciate your time. A great insight into what's going on and a lot of perspective there you gave to us. So thank you very much this morning. Appreciate your time. Take care.
Thank you.